6 months ago, none of us could have anticipated a global pandemic that would collectively change our lives forever. What it has revealed, even more acutely now than in the past, is that we are in a time of ideological bankruptcy. We only need to watch or to read the news to see that this is the case. Trust in institutions is at an all-time low, and political ideologies that we have created, believed in, even fought for, are crumbling. There is mass disillusionment, hopelessness, and even a lot of helplessness around us. As the world grasps, even gasps for answers, it regresses into tribalism, dualism, individualism, worldviews that no longer serve a changed planet. Worldviews that deny the interdependencies of political economies, and more importantly, a suffering and a weeping earth in a time of creative and digital disruption and rapid change. And now global pandemics are not going to serve or to help us. And as human beings, we have plundered, we have dominated, and we have created the mess and the beauty which we now live within. And unless our thinking, our sense-making evolves to deal with the complexities of our time, our future is actually looking very bleak. The theme of the Golden Door is a search. It's a quest for integrity and truth in the written word, but not just word for word's sake. It is the impact that words can have and do. If we look historically at people who have changed the world, they have been communicators, whether religious or political leaders, businessmen or women, activists, poets, musicians, artists, writers, authors. They have had one thing in common: the power to move people towards action. Now, through this pandemic, I've been thinking a lot about the power of words, both written and spoken, to create change. And I believe our roles, not just as writers and communicators, but as rational and imaginative human beings, is all the more important now to challenge, provoke, guide, inspire transformational action. But what future do we want to create? And what could be our bigger role and purpose in this time of change? It is words, both written and spoken, that fill the vacuum as people grasp for answers. And in a world where truth itself is under question, and the manipulation of technologies and algorithms to sway people's emotions on a massive scale, words that are written even on Facebook or LinkedIn become all the more important. A few years ago, I studied very, very in-depth program on the work of Dr. Claire Graves, an American social psychologist who studied the evolution of individual human, societal, and cultural systems. Now, from Graves' research, what he discovered is that humans evolve in order, and have always evolved in order, to adapt to their circumstances and their environment in which they find themselves, to solve the problems that they encounter in these new environments. As life conditions change, the mind capacities of people, of humans, had to change to meet those changing circumstances. A different and a new way of thinking had to evolve in order to survive. In a sense, the human mind outgrew itself. Now, our adaptation, and not just our adaptation, but what we choose to create with our adapted selves, is the challenge of this time. Until the modern age, change was rather slow. So we had time, we had time to psychologically adapt to changes that were occurring in the environment. But the key challenge now is that our environment is changing so fast, our psychological thinking and our development is not keeping up. So we're out of sync with the changes that are happening around us. There's no guidebook on how to survive and thrive through a global pandemic. What happens then? We keep on doing the same things that we have done in the past and we hope for a different result. Or maybe we just regress to what we know because that has made us feel safe before. And we hope that that may save us. But herein lies our big opportunity. The pandemic could actually be a tipping point for our collective evolution. We're at this very unique time in history. Given the technological advances that we have made as a species, to be able to collectively imagine a very different world, different ways of working, different ways of being than what we have today. Technology, global connectivity, science, shared wisdom, they're all pointing into a new way of thinking. So what is the writer's purpose in this time that we find ourselves right now, this time of change? I believe our role as writers is to elevate, to inspire, to use the power of story, of emotion and fact, that great rhetorical triangle of ethos, our ethics, pathos, our emotions, logos, our reason, our facts, to help people through this time of transformation. But whether you're a writer or not, each of us has a role to play. Now, the domain which I both write and speak within is the domain of creativity and innovation. The power to use the imagination to bring new things to life. This is the subject that calls me, that has called my life's work. But what is the purpose of innovation? The confluence between biochemistry, neuroscience, information technologies, it's changing our world. But if we don't challenge the purpose of what it is we're actually trying to create, the outcome of our thinking, then we will leave our new and emerging world up to chance. There is no new normal. I believe this pandemic has provoked thoughtful people all over the world to challenge their existing assumptions about who they are, what they think, what they do, how they work, and maybe even more importantly, the role of human agency to create the type of world that we now want to create. I believe that thoughtful people don't want a new normal. Our normal way of working and being was broken. We want, they want, a new extraordinary. But this goes beyond technological disruption and transformation. What we're now facing is psychological disruption, and that is painful. Why? Because it requires us to think very deeply and act differently. And the experiences that we personally go through and the experience of those around us are going to continue to be disruptive. Foundations are shaking. Sometimes the earth feels like it's actually crumbling beneath your feet when your worldview starts to shake. So it becomes hard to make sense of things. So our role as writers and as messengers is to help new sense-making to take place, to sort of stand, if you like, in the gap and allow people and help people and enable people through this transformational time. Now, I experienced one of the biggest and most formative shifts in my psychological disruption when I was 19 years old. I went to work in Bogota in Colombia with street children, and the things that I saw, my middle-class upbringing could never have prepared me for. Children in gutters sniffing glue, little girls as young as 5 or 6 being sold into prostitution, babies drinking milk mixed in with Coca-Cola, children being shot under bridges at night by the police. These things confronted a lot of my early belief systems and caused me to go on a psychological journey of change. I realized I was starting to outgrow a lot of the early thinking of my childhood years. And that's painful. It's painful when you go through these periods. So I went on this journey, a journey of change, and I found myself, maybe not knowingly at the time even, replacing content of belief with content of belief. Liberation theology of the South American liberation theologists, socialism. I worked as a speechwriter for the Labour Party in the United Kingdom after studying politics and legislative systems. Liberal economics, New Age thinking even, content upon content, but always within the same psychological construct. However, if I hadn't have gone on that journey through those experiences, thinking experiences as well as physical experience, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be what has made me uniquely me. And each of us, each of you have a story. Each of us, no doubt, have had to examine the psychological construct of our belief systems to help us adapt, to help us survive. And during this change, and this pandemic is teaching us nothing else. It's teaching us to be agile and to think differently. And these used to just be buzzwords, didn't they, a few months ago? Oh, we must be agile. We've got to adapt to change. And now here we are, folks. We're in adaptation on a massive scale. To adapt and to innovate are no longer the most sought after skills of the future. They are the skills of now, and these are not just textbook subjects. We have to go on our own hero or heroine's journey and experience that dark night of the soul. And we have to help other people who are going through theirs as well, as no doubt, as more disruption occurs, with innovation, with opportunities, with challenges from automation, robotics, COVID-19, other viruses and pandemics that may come and continue to be our reality. We need to be able to support people's psychological development. What we're experiencing today actually calls us to innovate at the level of paradigm. A fundamental shift and change in the concepts and practices and assumptions by which we live our life. This goes beyond creating new products and services, although we must be thinking about the impact of those products and services. This is innovation at the level of thought and of culture. Human beings are master storytellers. We're creators and we're culture builders, and our ability to innovate has always been our survival skill, for good and for bad. Think of the common shared values that we've created, of political belief systems, of human rights, of legal structures, even of money. All of these things are constructs if we think of culture as a powerful human innovation, a human creation, a fiction, it means that it can be rethought, reimagined. It means that what exists today, the way we work, the way we live, our organizational designs, the structures and the processes that support those things, the way we manage, the way we lead other people, all these things can and must be reinvented. It also means that the way that we measure our own progress can change too. In fact, we have to change that. We've outgrown the short-term ways that we measure results. So think over your life. What has brought you to where you are now? What is that common red thread that runs through your life and ties it together? And what are some of the assumptions and beliefs that you need to challenge about yourself that will help you step into that next phase of personal and professional growth? How does your life relate to the bigger collective story of which we are all part at this time of history? As I think of the bigger message inside of me, yes, you can innovate, but it's deeper now. It's around the innovator's purpose. I believe it's about encouraging purpose-driven innovation that leads out from a set of values that's willing to struggle with the complexities of our time and that encourages debate and diversity, and it's willing to hold the space for meaningful conversation so that new things can emerge, and will challenge the assumptions of the thinking that has brought us to where we are now, including our successes. What if we actually believed our words are not our own? That our words are actually for the collective, creative consciousness of an impulse that is seeking to create a better, more harmonious world that promotes connection, warmth and justice, and not just for humans, but for the flourishing of the earth itself. A world at peace with itself, a world that strives for beauty and truth and goodness. And it's willing to hold belief lightly, but at the same time be passionately determined to make a positive difference. What is the story that runs through you and is you? And how can you radiate it through your gifts, your talents, and a commitment to raise the thinking of those around you? How can you use this time of change to inspire hope and to take courageous action? Now, here are just a few ideas, and I am working on them as much in my own life as I propose to you. Firstly, read the thinkers, read the words of those who are on the cutting edge of thought, both from the past, but also from the present. And thoroughly study the domain of knowledge that calls you, that you're interested in, that you're passionate about, so that you can identify the opportunities that are emerging in that domain for where you can help to move it forward. Be intelligent. Secondly, deeply understand the challenges of those that are around you and become a liaison that holds this space, if you like, between where people are now and where they are evolving to. Be empathic. Have empathy. And third, and maybe actually this is often the hardest one, the most difficult, is it requires delving deeply into yourself, your own psychology, and the subconscious patterns of what are actually influencing your behavior. And see your thoughts, your beliefs for what they are: transitory and powerful embedded impulses that are passing through you. Hold them lightly. Be willing to let go those that you need to let go. Be open to change. Be open to life. Words are powerful. Words are a creative force that brings form into being. Words exist as a bridge between what is here and what wants to be created. From the void and life. And I believe now more than ever that trusting and authentic and passionate, humble voices and words are needed to help us transition psychologically through this time of change, to help not just humanity, but to ensure the earth will survive, that it will help the planet move forward. We need more writers. We need more thinkers. We need artists and communicators and scientists, doctors, educators, leaders, politicians, etc., that strive for sustainability, for equality, for diversity and community, and that can act as bridge builders, sense makers to facilitate insight and hold these moments of transformation for others. This is the gift of transference, a lightness of being that occurs in the blink of an eye. And in that moment, we have insight. We are changed. This pandemic has shown us that technological transformation is just the tip of the surface. Real transformation is psychological and societal. And it starts with words, my words, your words, the courageous, written and spoken word. Thank you very much.